Yes lads, hope you're all doing super well. In today's video, I'm going to be presenting to you 10 Premier League youngsters that could potentially be loaned out this upcoming season. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, leave it a like, and if you are new around here, please do consider subscribing. And without further ado, let's get into the video. On Sora, we all want our players, our cards, to be scoring on Sora, receiving a Sora score. But that isn't always the case for a lot of younger Premier League players. So, a tactic, a strategy that is often sort of used by Sora users is, buying younger players that play for like big clubs, specifically Premier League clubs, and hoping that they get a loan deal to go and play, first team regular football and get scores on Sora, if that makes sense, and help you in the SO5 game. To win Ethereum and win cards. So starting it off with Andrew Moran, who's contracted to Brighton. He just recently signed an extension on the same day or maybe the same week as Evan Ferguson, who we all kind of know and has broken through himself. But yeah, Andrew Moran did make a Premier League debut last season. Yeah, I think he came on against, was it Palace or Everton? Yeah, it was Everton in a 4-1 win. He only came on for 11 minutes. Didn't really show us too much as far as scores, but he's made his Premier League debut. Doesn't really seem like the first team minutes are going to be there for him at Brighton. They clearly really rate him, otherwise they wouldn't have given him a contract extension. But there is rumours that he is going to go on loan this season. Now, where? I don't have a clue. The most sort of rumoured situation is the English Championship. Blackburn, Stoke, just to name a couple of teams that have been rumoured on Twitter to try and get him on loan. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope it does. I'm actually an owner of one of his super rares. I'm a big believer in Andrew Moran. I think he's a great player. Number 10, really quick, eye for goal. He just looks really sharp, and I think a championship move would be great for him. If he went to League One, that wouldn't obviously be great as far as, SO5 and Sora, because the League One on Sora isn't covered. So we're hoping for a championship, loan deal. We're hoping maybe Eredivisie, wherever it is, somewhere that is covered as far as, Sora scores are concerned. But, somebody that's really exciting. I think, eventually he will be a Premier League player, but he needs minutes under his belt, at men's level. He played in Premier League 2 last year, did really well with scoring goals most games for Brighton's second team. So yeah, interested to see how that one plans out for Moran this summer. Next up is another Brighton youngster, and that is James Furlong. A little bit older, he's 21, under 23 until 2026. But you can see here, he did play for Motherwell last season. He went on loan to Motherwell, played quite a few games to be fair. Mainly was sort of an attacking sort of wing back. As you can see here, down as a left midfielder, but some really nice scores, like a 95 here, 2-0 win, obviously got a decisive. Some decent, AA game for the most part. Quite a few assists, which is encouraging. Shows that he's, decisive, capable in the right system. But yeah, there's not many cards of him. There's only 18 rare cards. 98 limited isn't bad, and £2 floor isn't terrible. There's no supers and there's no uniques. But he's recently signed another 1-year extension as well at Brighton. But there was a rumour that Legia Warsaw, who are a Polish team, came in for him, to take him on loan this season. But Brighton have refused that. That wouldn't be good for Sora because I don't think the Polish league is covered. So we're hoping for a championship loan, maybe back to the Scottish league. I doubt he goes back to Motherwell, but maybe someone else in the Scottish division potentially. But yeah, he's got first team minutes, in the Scottish league. You'd like to think he's probably good enough to go over to maybe the English Championship and get a loan there. I didn't see Preston were interested potentially. So yeah, it's all up in the air again, similar to the Moran situation, but another interesting one to keep an eye on. Next up is Man City's Cole Palmer. Just recently played in the under-21 competition for England, the Euro under-21s, and played incredibly well when he was given his chance. As you can see here, 100 against Israel, a 68 in the final against Spain, I think that was. And yeah, some decent AA games. But, is the chances, are the chances going to be there for him at Man City next season? He definitely has a better chance. Mahrez not being there probably helps. Him being sort of an inverted, winger or right winger that would, cut in on his left. I don't know. I just don't know if the chances are going to be there. They have this Oscar Bob who plays for Man City as well. I think he's only 20, a very similar player to Cole Palmer. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough room for both of them in that sort of first team squad. There might be, but there is rumours that Cole Palmer potentially leaves Man City on loan this season. Dortmund were rumoured for a bit. I've not really seen any other rumours since. If he was to go to Dortmund, I think he could do exceptionally well in the Bundesliga. His style of play and his capabilities on the ball, I think could flourish there. He's too good for the Championship, I think, way too good. it would have to be, an abroad sort of loan deal. Bundesliga makes the most sense off the top of my head. It'd be interesting to see where he does end up, if he does end up anywhere other than Man City. But yeah, if I was him, I'd want to be playing regular, first team football. He's won a couple of Premier Leagues now, and he's won the Champions League, I guess. He's kind of done everything the wrong way around. These Man City youngsters who, they're just involved in the squad, but they don't really play enough to where, like, they warrant, all the trophies that they've won, and you can't take that away from them. But I think someone like him should want to kick on now as far as, minutes and becoming a first team regular somewhere. So that is an interesting one as well. Keep an eye on where Cole Palmer ends up going, if he does end up leaving. Next up is Chelsea's Carney Chukwuemeka, who's really impressed in pre-season. From what I've seen, from what Pochettino has said, he is really happy with him. It's a tough one. Is he going to go on loan? It's obviously all going to be down to Pochettino. He looks great. He looks like he brings a little bit of everything to that Chelsea midfield. He's dynamic. He's a great ball carrier. He can score goals. He can assist goals. He can play deep. He can play 8. He can play 10. He's a Rolls Royce, lads. I gotta be honest. I think he's exceptional. He's only 19 years old. Let's not forget. I don't see him having like an unbelievably prominent role at Chelsea next year. So for that reason, that's kind of why I'm including him in this video, because I think, Pochettino probably sits him down and goes, okay, you are gonna play now and again, but I still feel like for your sort of age and your sort of potential, it would be better off, playing week in, week out, 90 minutes somewhere. And that's probably not Chelsea this season, potentially next season. So, I can see that conversation being had. There's no guarantees in that. This is just me sort of spitballing. So there is a chance, Carney Chukwuemeka does leave on loan next year. Where, I have no clue, lads. I'll be completely honest. But wherever he goes, I think he'd be a success. He's an absolute Rolls Royce, like I said. I think he offers so much. But, with a midfield of Enzo, if they bring in Caicedo, I think that's a big blocker for him as far as first team minutes. If Caicedo does sign, I think his chances of playing games for Chelsea next season slim down even further. So I think it is dependent. Carney's situation is dependent on that Caicedo situation. But regardless, I do think there is a good chance that he does, leave on loan, because they do have that Andre Santos, who's, coming from the Brazilian league, who looks great as well. A little bit, more defensive than Carney. I think Carney can play a variety of, more positions. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's definitely a chance he does move, but where, it's very hard to say. Next up is Arsenal's Marquinhos, Brazilian forward. He went on loan last season to Norwich in the Championship. Started quite a few games. Like, don't get me wrong, there's not an incredible array of Sora scores here. Scored a 78. I think that was on his well, yeah, it would have been his debut. Well, his first start anyway, which was good against my hometown club, of course, Cardiff City. It looks to me that he's probably going to be poised to go get another loan deal somewhere else. I don't think there's enough room for him in that sort of Arsenal front line. I just don't know I just can't see how the minutes are going to be there for him, if I'm being honest. Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Trossard. There's just too many players in there. Havertz, to where I just don't see how he plays, if at all. So, where does he go? There's obviously, he already has Championship game time, so that helps. If you are a Championship club and you're looking for a forward to come on loan, somebody that's already played in the league is a plus. For him personally, is that a sideways move? Yeah, in a weird way. It wouldn't be if he's playing every game and doing well. He's objectively a decent winger. I think he has potential. In what league? I don't know. I don't know where Arsenal could send him, really. Maybe he could follow like the Balogun route and go to the French league potentially. There could be some merit in that. Or, like I said, back to the Championship, to where he can play that standard. So that's an interesting one. Keep an eye on that Marquinhos situation at Arsenal. Next up is Man United's Facundo Pellistri. Under 23 until 2026. He's 21 years old. I think he recently signed a new deal as well. And I saw Ten Hag mention that they want to send him on loan. It seems like that's the most obvious thing for him right now. There's a couple clubs interested. I know Boca Juniors in the Argentinian league have inquired about him. I don't know how good of a move that would be as far as his development. I watched quite a bit of the Argentinian league. It's not a great league to watch. They do unearth a lot of young players and talented sort of players. So I'm not saying it's a bad league, but I don't know if it's a good league for like a Premier League youngster to go to, if that makes sense, and develop. Maybe I'm wrong. The other team interested is FC20, who we know, as Sora players were great last year for SO5 and for Sora purposes. I think that could be an interesting move for him. I think he could do really, really decently well there. I think Ten Hag's kind of pushing, for him to go to the Eredivisie. He knows the Eredivisie well, obviously managing Ajax there. So I think that would be the obvious one. I think for SO5 and for Sora, that could be really, really interesting. So definitely keep an eye on Palestri's situation at Manchester United. Next up is Chelsea's Leslie Ogachukwu. I might have butchered the name. Sorry if I have. But he's recently signed from Stade Rennes in the French league. Just recently gone out to the US with Chelsea. This is probably the only one on the list that we kind of just know he's going on loan. As far as what's been said so far from Pochettino. The obvious one is to go back to the French league and go to Strasbourg, because obviously the co-ownership with Chelsea and Strasbourg. But who knows where he ends up. A really, really talented midfielder who, deserves this sort of move, I guess. SO5 wise didn't set the world alight. Has been sort of a first team regular for a while now, which is obviously a great sign. If you're an 18, 19-year-old playing first team football in the French league, you're definitely doing something right, and you are going to catch the eyes of the Premier League, giants, I guess. And he's obviously got his move. Probably not ready for first team football yet in the Premier League. Hence, the obvious loan deal. So this one's more like baked into his price already. You could argue that, people kind of know he's going to go on loan. It's just kind of where. And I guess Strasbourg is the obvious one, like I mentioned. But again, an interesting situation to keep an eye on. Next up, we've got Burnley's Luke McNally, who looks to be going to Stoke in the Championship on loan from Burnley for this upcoming season. He's got one more year of eligibility, so he's 23 years old. And you know what, lads? He was a smasher in the Championship. Have a look at these scores for Coventry last year when he got into the side. 55 AA, some 26s, 22s, 24s, 22, 34, 36, 33, 41. I know there's some exceptional scores. Like his first four scores were absolutely crazy. 100, 100, 60, 76. And then I guess his next four were decent as well. Really interesting one. Obviously, Stoke aren't Coventry, so, definitely sort of amalgamate that into your thoughts. Those scores aren't going to automatically be his scores for Stoke. They have a different style of play, and, it might not suit him as much. Who knows? We'd have to see him in that side. But it does look like Luke McNally is going to be going to the Championship. That's not 100%, but that's just what I've seen on Twitter so far as rumours go. Next up is Arsenal's Sambi Lokonga. Who, for me, again, Arsenal have too much depth in midfield for him to really be sort of considered as getting, the game time he probably wants as a 23-year-old. It's probably time for him. You'd probably argue time for him to leave, I guess, but a loan move looks to be on the cards. Burnley is the most obvious destination, I think, reuniting with company after their spell at Anderlecht together. But obviously went on loan last year to Palace. Played a bit under Patrick Vieira, obviously then got sacked, so that was probably unfortunate for, Lokonga's situation. He was rotting on the bench after that. He obviously wants to go somewhere and play, and he is capable of scoring well on Sora. Like, he's not the most attacking sort of midfielder in the world, so you're not going to get that many decisives off him, but he is somebody that can rack up some good AA scores. I think Sambi has some great characteristics as a player and as a Sora player for that matter. And at the price he's at, I mean, £5 for a limited doesn't seem terrible. If he is a regular for Burnley, he's not going to be one of the best under 23 midfielders, but as a cap player, as somebody as a filler, I think he could do a job for most galleries. And last but not least is Arsenal's Arthur Okonkwo, who is a goalkeeper, the only goalkeeper on our list. Was on loan last season to Sturm Graz in the Austrian league and did pretty well. Like, apart from the last game of the season, I think the goalkeeper for Sturm Graz retired, so they brought him into the starting 11 for that. But before that, he had a really nice run of games. A lot of clean sheets, played really, really well. Before that, he had loan spells in League One, I believe. But he's 21 years old now, and it seems like, Arsenal signing David Raya as like a number 2 to Ramsdale. It kind of locks off that chance for Arthur to really break into this Arsenal sort of contingency for goalkeepers, really. And it seems like the right time to maybe move it. It might not even be a loan deal. It might even be a permanent deal. Who knows? I don't really have the information as far as what teams are rumoured. There isn't much on Twitter right now, but it seems like, he is going to leave Arsenal. If he becomes a starter in the Championship, then you've hit the jackpot, as far as utility and whatever. I think he's good enough to do so, even at 21. Could he go back to the Austrian league? Potentially. Belgium, who knows? Obviously, Slonina has just gone to the Belgium league to sign for Eupen on loan from Chelsea. So that's an interesting one. Obviously a much younger goalkeeper than Arthur. So yeah, an interesting situation to keep an eye on. Don't sleep on this Arthur situation, because we know goalkeepers, especially goalkeepers that aren't playing, that turn into starters, are obviously a gold mine on Sora. So definitely keep your eye out for that rumors that pop up on Twitter, because yeah, that could be an interesting situation. I hope you have enjoyed this video, lads, and if you did find it of value, please do consider leaving the video a like, and if you are new around here, please do subscribe. If there's any video suggestions you'd like to see me cover, please do let me know in the comment section. I'll have a little look at them and see if I'm capable of doing so. But I appreciate your time, I appreciate you watching, hope you have a great day, and I shall see you in the next video.